the idea is we were like, oh, I got this guy that shoots indie wrestling, and we're like, all right, we'll shoot it like indie wrestling. We'll set up some lights, some cameras. We'll spend $10,000-$15,000 and make a movie. You know, RVD's in it. Like, hell yeah, man, he's coming in. Like,
well, we've got a very special guest on today for an exclusive interview. He is one of the stars and co-writer of a very anticipated wrestling movie coming out. Some other people involved include Rob Van Dam, Katie Forbes, Sabu, Victoria. If you haven't heard about it, we're going to get all into it right now. It's called A Pro-Rasslin Movie, The Legend of Dirty Ron. Please welcome Dirty Ron.
Hey, thanks, Jonah. I'm very happy to be here on the Rewind, Recap, Relive podcast. Vlogcast, I guess it is. And yeah. We're putting a movie together by pro wrestling fans for pro wrestling fans. I've casted and crew over 20 current and former professional wrestlers, all the way from Rob Van Dam all the way down to current independent wrestlers like Ryan Kidd and Miranda Alizé, who's just on AEW Dark. We're trying to make a franchise here of films that are like the National Lampoons of professional wrestling movies. Pablo and I, the guy that is the co-director with me, co-writer, we tried to make a love letter to the wild, wacky world of pro wrestling, and that's what we did here in A Pro-Rasslin Movie, The Legend of Dirty Ron.
Absolutely. And the feedback, I think it's being received very well. And as you mentioned, what you're trying to do for a lot of these wrestlers is great. The impact you're making in the wrestling industry, giving them a different outlet, it's fantastic. But before we get into the movie, I'd love to get into your background, because you have quite the impressive one in the wrestling industry yourself. I know that your mom was actually a pro wrestler, and then you got into pro wrestling, and you've been in it now for around 20 years. You want to talk about that a bit, get into your background?
Yeah, so my mom was an independent professional wrestler, probably less than 100 matches back in the St. Louis territory in the late 70s. I was conceived in the early 80s, and I'm 37 years old, so I'm about to watch my 37th WrestleMania live. We've watched them all. We all had the parties. My parents invited people over. The first WrestleMania I remember watching was WrestleMania 3, because I remember coming down to the ring in the carts. But we always had the parties, and like wrestling was always something to me that was like so much larger than life, because you watch cartoons, you see rock stars on MTV, but none of those people were big bad dudes throwing people around talking shit while they were doing it. That's why it interests me so much, is because wrestling is the best form of live entertainment. We are doing comedy, action, drama, improv, stunts, all in one take with our fancy underwear on, audience 360 degrees around us, like we're throwing each other around. We're all sweaty and stuff, having to think, having to act, and do it on the fly to the audience. It's a totally different experience. And to have all of those skills, that's why I wanted to make this movie and having wrestlers involved, because wrestlers have so much to give in entertainment outside of the squared circle. Rob Van Dam is not Rob Van Dam in the movie. He is playing a character where when you see RVD in a wrestling ring, he's always been, hey man, I'm RVD. But like, he's playing a character, he's deep in this, he's got some insightful shit to say. So showing wrestlers in a different light and showing them outside of the squared circle was very important to me with this project. I've loved wrestling my entire life. Started wrestling in April of the year 2000, off and on, been running Fist Combat Wrestling promotion off and on since 2007. Wrestling's just been basically my entire life. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, the passion's definitely shining through. Do you remember some of those early matches, how you felt first stepping into the ring of professional wrestling?
So, okay, it took me a long time to, in comedy, they call it finding your voice and finding out who you are. Like when some people find out who they are right away. And everybody evolves. But when I came into wrestling, people had me playing characters that I really wasn't into, and promoter says this, and I wasn't an outstanding student as far as athletically. I was athletically gifted. I could lift a lot, strong guy, but I wasn't that Matt Sydal type of bing bang boom, all these all this acrobatics and stuff.
Right.
So when I got into wrestling, I didn't really find my voice until I started doing Dirty Ron like 4 years ago, and it connected with people. And I was like, oh shit, well, if this character is connecting with people, then maybe there's something here, you know. And I felt that for the first time. I was like, not only am I connecting with people, I'm finding out who I am as an entertainer. Like I am Dirty Ron, you know, like you know, I don't know if you see any of my matches or anything, but like I come out there and I'm like, I'm here to party, mother. I'm here to do 3 things. Number 1, I'm here to get up. Number 2, I'm here to somebody up. And number 3, when I'm done with that, I'm all your girlfriends. You know, and like it's a party. So like finding that and connecting with people and just being a loud, flamboyant, outlandish type of a person who walks around every day with hair like this, a mustache like this, a headband and a fanny pack. Like I've just become, I am who I am. And this is always who I have been. And finding out who I was as Dirty Ron completely changed my life.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And so it probably was fairly easy to step out of the shoes or maybe just morph Dirty Ron into what he is in the movie.
So in wrestling, you know, in indie wrestling, I'm Dirty Ron McDonald. You know, parody law, McDonald's doesn't come after me. But in the movie, we changed my last name to Whack Arnold, which is a nod to the Dave Chappelle sketch from back in 2004, Whack Arnold's. So it's WC Arnold's instead of McDonald. The movie is basically, I'm a 3rd generation Ron. My dad is the big fast food mogul. I'm the Playboy dipshit son. I keep getting into trouble. They can't, I'm such an unemployable person. So my manager, played by Jeremiah Watkins, very funny comedian, just has his first special out on Amazon. He's my manager, and I beat the shit out of him. So as I'm beating the shit out of him in the back of this restaurant, a dumpster dwelling hobo says, "Hey kid, you got some skills. I could teach you how to be a pro wrestler," played by Rob Van Dam. So he's like, "Hey, I used to be a wrestler." And I'm like, "Oh, well, you're living in a dumpster now." So basically it's a Rocky story of taking a nobody. And in this time frame, in this world, Effie plays a character called Rainbow Star. And he's the world champion. So the world champion has been beating everybody. And he's like, I'm going to find some poor dipshit schmuck, give him a chance. And they're like, oh, the fast food kid's wrestling. Why don't we give him a shot? So I get a shot to fight the world champion in my first ever match. And that's the whole journey is a wild ride.
The movie, you could tell easily from the trailer, which of course we'll link down below. Amazing production value. I thought too, it instantly struck me like this isn't just another, you know, that you see maybe going through Indiegogo, whatever. Like this is real, and I'm excited to see the finished product. Before we get even deeper into the movie, I want to know when you go from being a pro wrestler in real life on the independent circuit to wanting to make a movie about pro wrestling, because that, in my mind, that's kind of a big leap. But I want to hear what that was for you.
So I've always jumped out and done things. I didn't care. I don't do a whole lot of research. I learned the hard way. You know, I was, you know who Afro Man, because I got high, that guy. Anyway, I was his tour manager and opening act for like 2.5 years.
Oh, cool. Okay,
I took a 420 comedy tour up and down the West Coast in dispensaries. You know, like I've jumped on the road, you know, doing this wrestling thing for a long time. And really it was like, all right, let's try new things. I started stand-up comedy like 8 years ago. And, you know, now I'm doing, you know, before the pandemic, I was on stage 6 to 12 times every week doing stand-up comedy. So finding new ventures and trying to extend my life inside what I'm doing, which is working really hard not to have a real job, is that I was like, hey, I got inspired. I was like, hey, I watch these Blue Demon, I watch these El Santo movies, and I'm like, why aren't pro wrestlers making shitty movies now? So I was, you know, what the idea was is we were like, oh, I got this guy that shoots indie wrestling, and we were like, all right, we'll shoot it like indie wrestling. We'll set up some lights, some cameras. We'll spend $10,000-$15,000 and make a movie. You know, RVD's in it. Like, hell yeah, man, he's coming in. Like, he was pretty much our biggest expense at the time. Yeah. So then we started realizing, are we trying to make something ready for Fight TV, independent wrestling level? Or are we trying to make something ready for Netflix? So our $10,000 project quickly escalated to around $50,000, and I'm not made of money. So I've spent nearly my life savings And, like, we're not done with the film. So all these extra angles, all this extra lighting, all like, we really jumped into this thing, not really knowing how to make a movie. But we have people on our crew that have an IMDb page longer than Sonny's arrest record, longer than the amount of people that have smoked weed with Rob Van Dam. Long, long, long. So, like, putting this movie together, it was such a wild experience. And, when I had to look at myself in the mirror a week into this Indiegogo, and we're at less than $2,000, I had to look at myself in the mirror and go, I'm scared. I'm 37 years old. I've had a plan my entire life. And now I have no fucking idea what's going on. I've always made myself a 5-year plan, stuck to it, reconvened, restructured. And to be almost 40 years old, knowing that I'm not going to be able to wrestle much longer, is like, all right, well, what are we going to do here? We have half of a film. I don't have any money. I'm turning 38 in July. And like, all right, well, let's put it out to the pro wrestling world. And then there's people like you, and there's, like almost 30 other podcasts I've done in the last 2 weeks that I don't care if there's 5 or 500,000 people. It's connecting with people. So even though we're not near where I'd like our goal to be right now, we're under 10% 2 weeks into this thing. We got 4 weeks left. Are we going to get all the money through that? Maybe, maybe not. But I tell you what, Jonah, is that I am not going to stop until this thing's made. And then after that one's made, we're going to tour it around the country. And when that one's done being toured, we're making a second one and we're bringing it around to the country again. I'm going to continue to make pro wrestling related movies for the rest of my life. And because I feel that there's a need for it in the market. And like, why not? It's going to be a lot of fun and connecting with people.
It definitely is. The determination is amazing. I really hope you definitely exceed that goal. We'll put that down in the description too. That's the Indiegogo, right?
Yep. Yeah. I know you said you were going to put all the links up, and I'm not going to, waste a lot of time on that, but we're really easy to find at A Pro-Rasslin Movie. And we called it A Pro-Rasslin Movie because that's an endearing term to me. I love the wild wackiness of pro wrestling,
And I love that it's connecting with people. I want to know for you, so you had that idea in your mind, you went ahead and did it, commendable on you. And how was it going out and selling this to wrestlers like Rob Van Dam or like the long list you have, like Effie, like Matt Sydal? What was your pitch like, if you don't mind sharing that?
So I've made a lot of connections in my tenure in professional wrestling. And I've found that in life, you kind of just like, you're on a search to find your people. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. It took me moving to Santa Cruz, not knowing nobody, to find my wife. It took us moving to San Diego to really find where we have an audience for the type of stuff that we're putting on. So, finding your people. And over my lifetime, I've just collected people that I enjoy being around, that evidently enjoy my company. And it was a very easy pitch because when I wrote the thing, when I wrote all the characters, I wrote all the characters in mind with who was going to play them. I didn't audition one person for this film. I called them all up. I said, yo, I got this role. It all started with Rob Van Dam. I got married in Las Vegas last July, and I had a little wedding reception out there, and I, called RVD up, and I was like, yo, he was out there. It was a comedy show. And, we were out there kicking it. And I was like, yo, man, so I got this movie and I got this idea, and you would be the perfect, it's a stoner wrestling comedy. You have to be in it. I wrote the thing for you. And and I was in the middle of a 3-day bender partying for my wedding. Right. So, he read the script. And when I woke up at 5 p.m. the next day, I got a text message from him, and he was like, yo, dude, I love the script. In fact, I think what really got him is that the script was dope, but I pitched him an idea for a second film, and he loved that one even more. So
that's amazing.
And so like the conversation started there, and then everybody started falling into place. Effie, Katie Forbes, obviously. Mecca Wolf is a regular for us down here in San Diego. Matt Sydal, I started backyard wrestling with 21 years ago in St. Louis, so we've known each other for a long time. And, it's all the homies. It's all wrestlers and comedians that I've worked with, that I enjoy, that I'm a fan of. And it wasn't a pitch. It was, hey, dude, you want to come work on this cool thing with me? And to see all the people that have enjoyed it, and, the podcasters that have taken time to research and interview me, like, fucking amazing. But like, what's even more amazing to me, honestly, like, not to the downplay that, is that like, we got Rob Van Dam to get in a dumpster for something that we wrote.
I saw. Yeah,
You know,
it's amazing. Yeah,
how cool is that?
That's incredible from a fan's perspective, especially. Is there a difference being a wrestler for 20 years yourself? Obviously, you cut promos, and that's what pro wrestling is it's a form of acting and expression. But is there a difference when you're making a movie and you're pro wrestling in the movie than pro wrestling just in general?
So, you know, being new to this whole film thing, I'm not new to producing shows. So, you know, when you trust creative people that you work with and you find your right people and you trust them creatively, as a I guess a director and a producer, I know that I can only form them so much. So what we found was a great way, and you know, I was a proponent of this, Pablo was a proponent of this, and we did this, and it worked out great. Is that we took a couple takes of the script, and then we took a couple takes of improv, and the improv takes almost always came out better. Is that you have to trust creative people. You know, the conversation we had right before we started this podcast is that you got to trust creative people to get the job done and get you where you need to be and really pull out the best. Because I only have one perspective. I can put myself in other people's shoes as much as I want, but I only have one human personal perspective. So to trust creative people and to see what magic they can make was fucking amazing.
Trusting creative people, it's definitely the way to go. I love that mindset. So I want to transition now to what a fact that I'm sure a lot of people have asked you about. Maybe not a lot of the viewers know. You actually had a match in your 20-year career on Monday Night Raw against Braun Strowman when he was going on that long line of squash matches. You, the Splash Brothers, right? I believe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Actually, a memorable one. I told a couple of my friends that when you were coming on the show and I mentioned your debut, and they were like, "Yeah, I remember that." So I'd love to hear about that experience, what that's like in your career, how you felt about that, how it even came about. If you want to start.
Like, holy shit, it was the most amazing night of my life. First of all, we were the second interracial brother tag team in the history of pro wrestling. The Dudleys being
really
first.
Yeah.
I think I don't know that for a fact, but like, you know, I watched a lot of wrestling and I don't know of any other interracial brother tag teams. But anyway, so you know, I've been wrestling around for a while. I was in great shape at the time. A good friend of mine, Raven from LA. If you are an insider, you know Raven from LA. Hooks me up with John Cohn's email address, WWE referee and talent relations guy. And I was just like, hey, here's my picture. You know, I'm up around town. What's up? And they told us, hey, you know, come on down. And you know, it's like you get paid a little bit to be an extra, and hopefully you get to be a ambulance worker, you know, EMT or whatever. You know, you hope that. But anyway, so we show up and they're like, all right, you know, like you're supposed to get like on Monday and Tuesday, because it was a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday loop. It was a pay-per-view, Raw and SmackDown. They're like, all right, you know, Sunday you're not going to get shit. It's a pay-per-view, busy day, you know, just hang out, you know, catering. But Monday and Tuesday, when you get there, get in your gear and hang around by the ring. And if you get in the ring, you know, maybe they'll take a look at you, whatever. You might get to try it, you know, do a tryout match, something. So I'm sitting around and Arn Anderson comes up and he was like, all right, you two work with Primo and Epico and you two work with Braun. And I'm like, all right, well, that's weird, because at this point, I think it's just like hey, let's see what you can do. You know, let's see what you can do in the ring. So we go over this match and it's like, we're not doing anything. I'm like, I want to show these guys, I can wrestle, man, you know, like, what's up? And, you know, and I don't know anything about this time. I think this is just a practice match. So and after we're done with it, we go over it a few times and then they hand us the script. And I was like, oh, we're on Monday Night Raw. Oh, this match on Raw. This is on Raw. Like, what? And now I'm reading the script and I'm like, oh my God, one of us gets to talk. One of us gets to do a promo on Raw. Like, oh my God, I'm going to fight this guy. Like, what am I going to do? I got to get that talking spot. How am I going to be that guy? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to fight over this? Are we going to wrestle? What do I got to do? And then he was like, oh man, it's cool. You just have it. And I was like, hell yeah. So I got to cut the promo live on Raw. I got to cut the promo live on Raw. And they told us one thing, John, as they told us, they said, Vince McMahon hates it when you look right into the camera. He hates it. Don't look into the camera. So what did I do?
You looked right into the camera, right?
You fucking know I did. So I cut that promo.
Saw that.
Ultimate
you gave those eyes, right?
What's that?
You gave those eyes right to the camera. Yeah, right there. That's what, but that's what stuck with me when I was watching that the other day, preparing for this interview. I was like, wow, look at him, that intensity. And it doesn't click for like the everyday, just the fan watching when someone does that, but that's meaningful. Yeah.
And that like, and that's how I try to entertain people too, is that like I try to make everything meaningful. So so we did the promo, we did the match. Here's some really cool tidbit about the match. So I got reverse choke slam right onto my partner. So technically I'm chest to chest to my partner and I'm pinning him. So I'm supposed to be playing dead, right? But I hooked his leg as a rib. So technically I pinned my partner and I'm 1-0 on Monday Night Raw. So I'm putting that down.
You should.
Technically I pinned somebody on Raw. But anyway, so we get done. We walk through Gorilla, where everybody's at, Billy Kidman, all the agents, Vince McMahon, everybody, and I was just like, head down, like, oh, thank you guys, whatever. And I walk through very respectfully. I go to the extra changing area real quick, grab a bottle of water. I go back to the monitors to watch the rest of Raw. So I'm coming down the hallway, long hallway, 50, 60 feet, right? There's 20 people in the hallway. And here I am walking in the hallway on my way to Gorilla again, to like where the TV is. Mm-hmm. And here I see at the end of the hall, holy shit, Vince McMahon. He is at the end of the hall. Okay. And I'm like, oh, dude, Vince is walking this way. I'm walking. We're both going to go. Oh, holy shit. I'm going to stop, right? I'm going to stop right here, right now, right? Okay. And I'm just going to act like, oh, whatever. They told us, like, don't bother anybody. Here comes Vince. Man, what am I going to say to him? I don't want to be a mark, whatever. And then I looked up, and here he is halfway down to me, and he's like staring right at me. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. I'm going to get yelled at by Vince. Right? What am I going to do? I can't go backwards. I can't go forward. There's a door. What am I going to do? Oh my God. Here comes Vince McMahon. I'm going to get yelled at. Oh, this is the worst night of my life. What the and then I look up and there he was looking at me, just looking. I felt like he was 25 feet tall, just looking straight down at me, like, oh my God, like what the fuck? And he looks at me, he's like, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he's like, you did a great job, son. Great job. Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great job tonight. And I was like, I didn't know what to say, like I should have been like, are you hiring? But I didn't know what to say, man. It was like the greatest compliment from the highest ranking officer in the history of professional wrestling. When it comes to the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, I don't know how it isn't Stephanie, Vince, Triple H, and Paul Heyman. Like, that's the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Who's made wrestling what it is today? Like those four, no doubt. So to get a compliment like that, walk right by to the monitors, and then Stephanie was right there and did the same thing. So like to get back-to-back compliments like that, couldn't have been a better night. Couldn't have gotten a better compliment from the two of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine that. Wow, you must have been floored. I mean, explaining it now, were there ever aspirations before you decided to make the movie to try to pursue WWE after hearing that confidence maybe booster?
I think it furthered everything else. I think it furthered the confidence in myself because I connected with two of the best that ever did it, and they came out of their way to tell me that. So like that night, I guess, like what if you could, everybody that is a part of this film, and this was a major thing to me too, made a name for themselves outside of a major company. Effie, never going to sign with a major company. Has been on record saying, I would not take $500,000 a year to sign with a major company. Said that. He said it to me. He said that publicly tons. Rob Van Dam made his name outside of a major company. Victoria was a bodybuilder before professional wrestling. Katie Forbes, the twerk queen of the universe. Like she's made a name for herself outside of a major company. Everybody that's been a part of this film has made a name for themselves outside of a major company. So to make a film and to connect with people, like you have to believe in yourself, and you have to know that connecting with an audience and making that connection, then they will support you if you put out quality content, if you put out quality merchandise, if you are a quality entertainer that loves doing this stuff, people will support you.
When was the last time that you had a match on the independent circuit? I believe that Strowman thing was 2016, right? Am I correct?
Yeah. So I've been running, I still run Fist Combat. We did 33 live shows in 2019. Ran about 12 shows last year and during the pandemic. We did some drive-in shows. We did some small audience warehouse shows. We continue to do that down here at the house in San Diego. It's our small little warehouse, the FUC house, Fist Underground Compound. So
Love that.
I wrestle a few times a month. I've been pretty much exclusively wrestling for my promotion here. And that's because I'm booked every other weekend to do stand-up comedy, and other small projects and stuff. So I keep myself busy as an entertainer. Wrestling is just an extension of who I am inside the ring. We just started a wrestling school, Ryan Kidd and I down here, and we've been training kids now. We just had our first 6-month class graduate, and they're on to intermediate classes. So, there's many irons in the fire. And if somebody would ask me to define what I am, I'm an entertainer. I'm an all-around entertainer. Wrestling, comedy, producing, directing, all sorts of stuff. I got my hand in a lot of things. So, it's important to me to keep active, keep trying new things, keep failing. If this Indiegogo fails, it might be my millionth failure, and if it's not, something else will be. So, keep going, keep the train popping, and keep out there and keep active, put out quality content, meet quality people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned the training school now, and I've heard you employ some interesting tactics there too, right? A lot of your trainees start under a mask for when they first come in.
Yeah, so our approach to wrestling school is very different from anything that I've seen. Most wrestling schools that I've witnessed to, been a part of, their goal is to train the next WWE superstar, and that's good and all. But the way that wrestling has expanded to, there's a lot of these promotions that run one show a month, and guys are these weekend warriors. And I wanted to keep the integrity of wrestling. So like all of our wrestlers, we turn them into athletes. Is we took pretty much the average Joe, and we turned them into a formidable, I hate to say like jobber, but like that's where they're at right now. And so when we got them, the goal was to get them inside of a ring in under 4 months. So to get somebody to learn to bump, learn to roll, learn to fall, learn to lock up, learn to all these things, training 2 nights a week, I think it was an impressive feat that we did. And it was very rewarding because, as somebody that's been a lifetime wrestling fan and wrestling a long time, somebody has seen the business pass them up stylistically. I was, scared to call myself a trainer to teach people. I didn't know what I had to offer. So teaming up with internationally traveled indie guy, Ryan Kidd, he's trained for months in Japan, in England, and in Mexico, gets booked very regularly in Mexico, trained in Germany for over a month, at WXW. So he brings the technical aspect to the training, and I really bring the character development and overall storytelling.
I definitely see that.
Yeah, so it's fun, it's interesting, and it's a new facet too of what I do. Always try new things. Don't be scared to fail.
Yeah, it only takes one success, right? That's what they say. One big one. Well, we have a lot of rising stars on this show, and someone who's been in it for 20 years, now you're running the school too. I'd love to hear any piece of advice if someone asks you when just breaking into the business now. We heard how you deal with a lot of your trainees, but what would that one piece of advice be for the pro wrestling business?
Is that, hey man, become an athlete. Have respect for wrestling. Have respect for it in the sense that, you got to understand that what your job as an entertainer is to entertain the audience. I see a lot of independent wrestling shows run with small audiences that aren't very enthusiastic. And that pains me, is because as wrestlers, we are entertainers. So to understand the difference in running a wrestling at a festival show where there's thousands of people who have never seen wrestling versus wrestling at a Smart Mark show, like a PWG or something like that, versus wrestling a bar show, or like we used to run strip clubs and pool halls on a Thursday. So, not to understand how to connect with an audience is an art. And once you realize how to manipulate emotions good enough to get people to love you or hate you, and really realize the power that you have with the words and the way that you carry yourself is that once you find your voice and once you find all that, like it's easy. Like it's almost too easy once you realize, but you got to go through all the bullshit. You got to fall on your face. You got to fail. You got to be self-aware, and you got to always jump hurdles. So many people find problems for every solution. I'm a solution finder. I'm a hurdle jumper. Throw me a roadblock. I'll find a way over it. You know, find ways over roadblocks. Be self-aware. Listen to what people are saying to you. Take it with a grain of salt, but always listen. If somebody's going to talk to you, somebody's going to take the time to share knowledge with you, listen. It might not be something you use. It might be something that causes you to think a totally different way. But if somebody's going to take the time to talk to you and give you their time and energy, soak it up, listen to it.
So well said. And final question, obviously unique to you. You guys are deep in this movie process now. I hope that everything goes well with the Indiegogo. I'm sure it will. But if somebody asked you advice on wanting to make a pro wrestling movie, on wanting to make a movie about pro wrestling, what would you give them for that? If what you're doing now is maybe a catalyst for those in the future who want to do something like that.
It's the same thing. Make a plan, be very prepared that everything's going to go wrong. The smaller the project that you start with will get you ready for the shit that goes wrong. A true test of any producer is being able to, as Mike Tyson put it, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So when you get kicked in the dick, as I like to say, you got to be ready for that. You got to know that it's coming. You got to not be defeated. You got to, it's not over until you give up. And if you have a plan and you surround yourself with people that you respect and trust, that if they believe in it, you believe in it. You have to be a good leader. You have to listen to everybody involved. You got to take in everybody's input, but you got to be ready for those roadblocks. And you can't be a person that has a problem and goes, boo-hoo. Every time I have a situation I need to jump, I figure out a way to jump that hurdle. I might jump and land on my dick. Oops, ouch. But I'll figure out a different way. Like I said, I've failed a million times, and that's okay. You're gonna fail. If you're gonna succeed ever, you're gonna fail a million times. You're gonna fail until you succeed, or you're gonna fail until you quit. You have two choices. People, here's the thing. Whether you end up with good fortune or bad fortune, it was probably your fault, like regardless. So, if you have a bad attitude and you don't take problems and jump those hurdles, you're gonna get knocked in the dirt and you're never gonna get out of there. The pit of despair and the pit of boohoo is so deep, and it's hard to get out of that. So have a positive, motivation.
I'll look at that.
Dedication and positivity.
You are the real deal. Wow, that is great. Yeah, definitely practice what you preach. 100%. Yeah, get back up from your failures and knock it out of the park. Great advice. Well, thank you, Dirty Ron. It's been amazing having you on here. Everyone definitely check out A Pro-Rasslin Movie. Everything will be down below. If you want to say one more time, Dirty Ron, where they can find it.
Well, Jonah, I can't wait to come kick it with you up. Yeah. I don't know which part of New York you live in, and I don't want
Manhattan.
I don't want to disrespect it by calling it the wrong one. Which part is it?
Manhattan.
You live in Manhattan. All right.
Well, it all. Yeah.
We're going to be coming out. I don't know if I've said this already, but we're hooking up with independent wrestling promotions all over the country. We'll be screening this film all over the country. We won't be streaming it. You can't go to the theater and see it. You can only see it when I bring some of the wrestlers, some of the stars, some of the comedians from the movie. We're going town to town to town, showing this thing off. You're going to see memorabilia from the movie, things from on the set. You're going to see it at the screening. You're going to meet the stars of the film, question and answer, meet and greet, all that. We're bringing out merchandise, and we're going to be bringing this movie to the people that supported it and the people that support live independent pro wrestling. It's been such a journey and such a trip to see how many people that this has impacted in even the smallest way. If you donate, cool. I'm not begging for donations. I know this movie's going to get made, whether we hit the Indiegogo goal or not. I don't want to downplay it. I would love to get all the donations, but the train doesn't stop if the Indiegogo stops and we're not there. The movie's going to get made. We're going to keep making movies like this. And if you like this, if you enjoyed this interview, if you enjoyed the trailer, show it to somebody else. If they donate, cool. If they show it to somebody else, cool. Because there's 8 billion people on this planet, and wrestling is translatable to every country and every language, every religion, every color, creed, sexual orientation. Wrestling is for everybody, and a pro wrestling movie is for everybody. They're gonna enjoy it, hopefully. And if they don't, I mean, oh well, you're in the minority. So, show people the trailer. They're gonna see it, they're gonna like it, hopefully.
Oh, they definitely will. Well, thank you again. You really took us home there, and I can't wait to watch the movie.
All right, Jonah, my man, thank you very much.
Our incredible sponsors, Rasslin Pins. Why haven't you already ordered some pins at this point? Go on your phone, order some Rasslin Pins, and type in RRR15OFF upon checkout to get yourself 15% off, courtesy of Rewind, Recap, Relive, of course, your next Rasslin Pins order. Go to this link right here or in the description box below, and I'll see you soon.
Message Daddy, Boogie Woogie Man feel good. I tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss online, rewind, recap, relive. Oh yeah.